At the ongoing India-Africa ICT Expo taking place in Kigali, CNBC Africa's Stephen Muvunyi sat down with Sanjay Nayak, the CEO and Managing Director of Tejas Networks, to discuss what Africa can do to achieve its digital transformation aspirations. Take a look.
In India, we have had very good success stories around the world in software, right? But Tejas is the first company where we make telecommunication equipment. So it is the first, what I call deep technology company from India, which is started as a startup, and I started this company 18 years back, and we went IPO last 2 years back. What we essentially do is build telecommunication equipment, which is used by any operator to build a broadband infrastructure. So if you want to build a high capacity backbone, or you want to build a high capacity home broadband or wireless broadband, the equipment which is used behind providing those services is what we design, manufacture, and develop. So it's a very high R&D activity company. Today we are present in more than 70 countries around the world. We have a very large presence in Africa with more than 50 customers. And we, of course, have some presence in Rwanda as well.
When it comes to Rwanda, talk to us about the market and the companies or your services and the people you work with.
So Rwanda, we basically service to telecom service providers. So the people who would be providing you telecom services would potentially buy the equipment from us. One thing which I feel good about Rwanda is that there's a lot of motivation in the people, a lot of talent. The government seems to be very serious about providing broadband to all its citizens, because with broadband infrastructure in place, I think there's a great opportunity for Rwanda to transform into a digital economy. And we've had some nice learning experiences in India, which we'll of course love to share with Rwanda and make our commitment to this nice country.
All right, so of those you're willing to share, maybe could you also share with us some of those that are, the most important ones that you would want to share with Rwanda?
Let me give you first thing about what is the experience of how do you take a traditional economy and turn it into a digital economy. And let me give you an example from India. In India today, our aspiration is that in 3 years or 4 years from today, India will be a $5 trillion economy. And India would aspire that 20% of that 5 trillion, which is about $1 trillion, should be digital economy. So we are talking of that scale. So there are few things which need to be done to get that right. And that is what we are willing to share. Number one is there is a absolutely important need to build a very robust telecom infrastructure, high capacity telecom infrastructure, because unless you have that infrastructure, like in the earlier days you needed a road, you needed electricity, today you have to have a high capacity broadband infrastructure. And how to build a large broadband infrastructure at the lowest cost, because cost is a very important thing. That is something we have learned in India. So I'll give you the example. Tejas Networks was involved with the government of India, and we rolled out the world's largest greenfield rural broadband infrastructure, which was covering 100,000 villages in the country, over 250,000 kilometers of optical fiber. And we laid this out. So that learning we want to bring here, that how do you build a very robust broadband infrastructure. That's point number one. Point number two, India has built a whole series of what I call is foundational software stack. So for example, a unique identification, biometrics based unique identification for every citizen. Then how payment gateways for any financial transaction. So that whole amount of technology has been built. And on top of that, the startup ecosystem in India has created lots and lots of companies, from mobile, cab hailing companies to motorcycle hailing companies. I believe there's a company here as well, to e-commerce, digital, shopping, entertainment. So a lot of that ecosystem of learning is there. The good news about the digital economy is that what works in India or US doesn't necessarily need to work in Rwanda. You have your local problems. So if the local Rwandan entrepreneurs can take the understanding of the local market, local situation, we from India can bring in all the technology that has worked, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, and then you can actually create value on top of that. That requires skill development, that requires training, that requires sharing of expertise, which I think in this Indo-Rwanda ICTs event we are willing to do. And I think as a partner country, we are really keen that we work on this.
All right, so we've been focusing on infrastructure, but another important factor when it comes to digital transformation is skills development. Yes. You touched on it, but I want you to kind of be a little bit elaborate on how African countries and Rwanda especially can kind of make sure this is not left behind as well?
So in the digital economy, knowledge is their most important ingredient. And knowledge is basically maps down to people. And people, it maps down to skills and the capabilities. So I think one has to take the educational system that you already have. So you have a few very good universities in Rwanda. So what is that they are missing today? So we need to do a gap analysis. For example, in this sense, in the case of ICT infrastructure, I absolutely believe that all the networks, the broadband networks that are designed and operated, they should all be done by Rwandans. There is no need for anybody to come from outside. We'll provide you the equipment, we'll provide you the technology, but after that you should build your own network and run the network. For example, that's just one instance. Second, in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of what are the different kind of software capabilities that are there. So the whole basic things about how do you use the ecosystem of technology, the building blocks which are available, and then put them together to solve your problem. So I think the education system is very good. You need to create a layer about specific, say, centers of excellence. So one of the things we are thinking, not Tejas, but as India as a country, is that we could set up a center of excellence for ICT technologies in your top university over here, so that with all the foundational work which you've already done, you put the center of excellence, which will basically take the students which have come out, train them and make them more industry and more digital economy focused, so that when they come out of it, they're already ready to either contribute directly, or if they're very good, they can become entrepreneurs, do their own startups. They understand the problems locally, they have the building blocks and the tools, and they can actually create a lot of value in the country.
All right. Before we wrap this up, I want you to talk to me about the environment in terms of, do you think the private sector, the environment is conducive enough for the private sector to kind of invest in this particular sector of ICT?
Rwanda?
Yes.
Yes. So I think the environment is conducive, but let me also say that the way a lot of these kind of things work, it's a situation where I feel that it's important to have more of a strategic level relationships rather than a tactical relationship. So for example, a private business in India can of course come and sell a little bit of equipment here and go back, sell some products or services and go back. That I would say would be tactical. So one thing which I feel the Rwandan government can do, because Rwandan government in a sense is looking after the innovation, the entrepreneurship, the broadband infrastructure, and many things in the ICT arena. And you have a very, very capable minister, and I had the opportunity to meet a Prime Minister as well today. I think it's a very good system that you have in the country. So what needs to be done is, I think, if you see among the countries around the world, India is possibly a technology source for Rwanda, which is the best suited to meet your needs here. So I think Rwanda and India need to develop a strategic level relationship in the ICT sector. And once you develop strategic relationships, it's a give and take. We'll get something from you, you will learn from us, and we'll make it all together.